will be done elsewhere. The occurrence of words after the qua is indefinable. However, word types and word tokens before qua are very much definable. I am not ashamed to say that it all begins with Charles Saunders Peirce. Here is what Peirce wrote in 1906. A common mode of estimating the amount of matter in a MS or printed book is to count the number of words. There will ordinarily be about 20 thus on a page, and of course they count as 20 words. In another sense of the word word, however, there is but one word, the, in the English language, and it is impossible that this word should lie visibly on a page or be heard in any voice, for the reason that it is not a single thing or a single event. It does not exist, it only determines things that do exist. Such a definitely significant form I propose to term a type. I must thank Yusor Indorwala for all my engagement with Peirce, because he knows Peirce better than anyone else I know. I don't know if he's there. For Peirce, types are forms, much like Platonic forms. Hence I use the word, the subscript F to designate types in Q sub 1 OF. With the definition of word type intact, Peirce now proceeds to the definition of word token. A single event which happens once and whose identity is limited to that one happening or a single object or thing which is in some single place at any one instance of time, such event or thing being only as occurring just when and where it does, such as this or that word, or on a single line of a single page, or of a single copy of a book, I will venture to call a token. Peirce is extremely careful to avoid circularity in the two definitions of word type and word token. Though he begins with an example of tokens to make us think of the form of a word, he does not use token in the definition of word type, and he does not use the word type in the definition of word token. Susan Stebbing in 1935 accepted Peirce's type token distinction of words, but raised some crucial problems with it. She particularly pointed out the problems with considering tokens as instances of types, so that the numerous D's on the same page are an instance of the same type the. But once we write this the, it also is a token and hence an instance. One solution was by Ramsey and Russell, who thought of types as classes of tokens. She concludes that a token cannot be an instance of a type because the type is logically dependent on the token, in the sense that it is logically impossible to mention the type word without using a token. Stebbing raises this difficulty from the inside of the Peirce quotation above, as Peirce moves from tokens of these on the page to the type the. Daniel Bronstein in 1936 in a presentation of Carnapian logical syntax does not see any problem with the Peircean statement of tokens as instances of types, and employs the distinction as such. Donald Williams in 36, however, sees another problem with tokens as being instances of type. If I say a word and 1,000 people hear it, is there any type and a thousand? Is there one type and 1,000 tokens, or one type and 1,001 tokens, including the one word that I say and the 1,000 heard by 1,000 speakers? Further, why are there not 1,000 types corresponding to each token word heard by each hearer? Williams nonetheless sets up a useful hierarchy in which the number of word tokens must be greater than or equal to the number of word types. The number of word types must be greater than or equal to the number of words, and the number of words must be greater than or equal to the number of terms. With the roots established by Peirce and Williams, the emergence of the metaphysics of words took place with section 1 of David Kaplan's Path-Breaking Words. Kaplan begins by describing his transformation from a Frege semantic-centric approach to solve puzzles to a syntax lexical-centered approach to solve puzzles. This shift required Kaplan to first ask the question, what is a word? I contrast two theories of the individuation. One might say metaphysics of words, the conventional token type theory and the common currency conception. Okay, I'm not saying unquote unquote because you can read it, sorry, just save time. Kaplan begins section 1 by words, by saying that words are either invented or transmitted through interpersonal links through an inscription of utterance. Next, Kaplan rejects the traditional orthographic conception that utterances and inscriptions are tokens of words as types on the grounds that it is a rehash of Platonic forms with all its problems. Kaplan then wants to replace the traditional type token model with a stage continuant model built on the interpersonal and intrapersonal links of words, and he borrows the term from Kripke and calls it the common currency conception. One great advantage of the common currency conception over the orthographic conception is that it gives a much more plausible account of identification of a word in the case of intrapersonal continuity than resemblance does in the orthographic conception. By the way, Nikhil Mahant, I think, who was at Delhi University, has got an excellent paper on this. It's probably coming in this volume. You know, his will surely be accepted. It's much better than mine. Okay, McKellar responded to Kaplan by claiming that Kaplan had over-exaggerated this rejection of the type token model as well as of Frege semantics, and that despite replacing the model with his own common currency conception based on the stage continuant model, Kaplan does not display how the puzzles are to be better solved with the shift to syntax. Even if McKellar's charges against Kaplan are accepted, as often happens in the history of philosophy, Kaplan is in that seminal section 1 has practically given birth to the metaphysics of words that was clearly not flourishing before 1990 and has come to flourish since then as time has passed. Hence, we can sustain Kaplan's metaphysical turn even if we don't accept his common currency conception, or even if it is no better than the traditional orthographic conception in resolving semantic puzzle. A further blow to the type token model came from Hermann Kaplan. The fact that conventions play an important role in determining when tokens are of the same type suffice to show that something is wrong with the traditional type token model that treats expressions as paradigmatic abstract objects and says that if two concrete particulars stand in the same relation to the same type, then they are tokens of the same type. Kaplan is not necessarily pointing out a circularity, but it would indeed be odd if types were determined by conventions, which is what would happen if tokens are determined by conventions. Kaplan, however, is critical of Kaplan's common currency view as being intentionalist laden to the point of leaving the non-intentionalists out in the cold. Transalito gave a further blow to the Platonism in the type token model. A further development of the relationship between a type and its token might cast some light on the way in which a type might inherit its properties from token. Surely, Platonic forms as universals in the guise of types go flying out of the window if they are determined by tokens, which are most likely nominalist instances. Alward proposes a synthesis of the type token model and the stage continuant model with his proposal of type constituent model, in which words are type constituent, temporal sequences of sets of type sign system pairs. At any given time, a word consists of a set of type sign system pairs. Hawthorne and Lepore, 2011, begin with an agreement with Kaplan in 1990 that the form theoretic conception of words is deficient. However, they argue that Kaplan poses a false dichotomy, and McCulloch was right to point out and go for an alternative model. Hawthorne and Lepore go for a more dynamic model, which could be four-dimensional, and they call it abstract articulation model. They also allegedly demonstrate that Kaplan's stage continuant model leads to a counterpart theory modal account of words. They do agree, however, that they are after a metaphysics of words that meets the evolutionary constraint that Kaplan is concerned with. They then go on to present a sophisticated context-driven account in which word is flexible enough to cover a much wider domain than either the traditional type token model does or what Kaplan's stage continuant model does. And they bring in a rigorously developed criterion of individuation of word. Bromberger, on the other hand, objects to Kaplan's account because it is too barren to be adopted. Kaplan in 2011 replies to Hawthorne and Lepore. This was all in a special issue of Journal of Philosophy. With his wit as sharp as ever. Kaplan's response is mainly that of repeating his naturalistic motivation from his 1990 paper, but extrapolating on them more clearly and more expansively. The most important of these for Kaplan are the continuity of a word and the speaker's intentions relative to the speaker's lexicon. Kaplan appreciates the sophistication of the context-based abstract articulation model, but he stresses that as long as his context basis accommodates speaker's intentions, speaker's lexicon, and the continuity of a word, he will be quite happy with their model. As an autobiographical example, he talks about his first name, David, and why it is not the same as his first name, David, of David Hume, on the type token model. It would seem that the type at least would be the same and the tokens would be the instances of the type. Even on Ramsey's account, David as a type would be a class of all the token Davids. Kaplan states, our common first name is the generic name David. Since common currency names are singular terms and Hume's first name names him and my first name names me, they could not be the same singular term. Kaplan persists with the reason as to why the two Davids here are distinct common currency names. Hume's common currency name is in the lexicon of a vast number of people worldwide. Mine is in the lexicon of a relatively tiny number of people, mostly located in Southern California. Can Hawthorne and Lepore's context-based model account for this distinctness? Kaplan is not sure that it can. The ball is then in their court. Naming for Kaplan's original model proposed in 1990, but I will save further comments on this section 4. 3 decades after Kaplan's 1990 path-breaking paper, and almost a decade after Kaplan's 2011 response, Miller, from inside the middle of a legitimately thriving research program of the metaphysics of word, sets out a threefold criterion for the ontology of word. 1, creation. Whatever words are, they should be entities that account for the phenomena of invention or coining. Kaplan wittily keeps calling himself a creationist, and he would indeed be quite happy with the use of invention and coining by Miller. 2, expressibility. Whatever words are, they should be expressible through some means of externalization. This is a generic account of words with which Hawthorne and Lepore would be quite happy, as it gives us flexibility of what words are. Evolution. Whatever words are, they account for the apparent change of words. Again, the influence of Kaplan here is apparent, as continuity is a big motivation for him. and evolutionary constraints is also what Hawthorne and Lepore shared with Kaplan. With this tripartite criterion, Miller goes on to discuss the debate among realism, nominalism, and eliminativism in the ontology of words. And we have an old-fashioned, hoedown medieval philosophy style, and with sophisticated varieties of realism and nominalism being served. Individuation of words was a concern for Kaplan and for Hawthorne and Lepore as well. The concern with individuation within the ontology of words is developed by Irmak, and an extensive account on individuation alone is given by Miller. So here is another promising research stream within the metaphysics or ontology of words. The latest paper on the individuation of words I have read is the excellent account by Una Stojnik, who presents within the context of originalism plus transfer. Una is able to provide a criterion for word individuation which does not adhere to traditional strict originalism of the unqualified variety. I have attempted to trace the history of the metaphysics of word objectively without taking a stance myself. I don't really have a stance, nor am I in a position to propose an alternative model in addition to the extensive models proposed by Kaplan, Hawthorne, and Lepore, and others. My main focus in this subsection 3.1 has been to first fasten at the root of metaphysics of words with the word type, word token distinction, and then pin down the emergence of metaphysics of word in Kaplan's 1990 paper. The growth from 1990 onwards has been slow, as Kaplan's paper was not paid as much attention to as should have been, as Hawthorne and Lepore point out. But especially with the 3 articles in the Journal of Philosophy 2011 issue, the ground was set for a lively research program that has since taken off, especially from 2019 to 2021, and is ongoing. 3.2. Okay, sorry, it was a bit journalistic, but I thought that this history was necessary. Okay. The primacy of the metaphysics of word over the semantics of word. Let me recall 2 of the 6 bifurcations of question 1. What are words for words? What are words for meanings? Let me turn to Peirce, 1907. All general or definable words, whether in the sense of types or of tokens, are certainly symbols. That is to say, they denote the objects that they do by virtue only of their being a habit that associates their signification with them. As soon as we see the word symbol or sign in Peirce, we immediately associate it with the founder of semiotics. Hence, we think of a symbol with its 3 dimensions of syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. My purpose right now is to concentrate on the semantic dimension and contrast it with the metaphysics of words, the root of which is also in Peirce. However, we cannot think within Peirce of the metaphysics of words independent of thinking of words as symbols with the semantic dimension of meaning. So I will not push the issue here that Peirce thought the metaphysics of word is prior to the semantic dimension of them as symbols. With the emergence of metaphysics of words with Kaplan and Hawthorne and Lepore, and its flourishing in the recent works of Irmak, Miller, and Stojnik, the primacy of metaphysics over semantics is gradually being established, even if the metaphysics of words is a much younger research program than the much older research program in the semantics of words, especially going back to Prager's theory of meaning and the development of the bifurcations in the theories of reference since then. So far, I have been able to demonstrate the autonomy of metaphysics of word from the semantic meanings of words. However, I have not convincingly demonstrated the primacy of the metaphysics of words over the semantics of words. I will now attempt a backward path to this by arguing in section 4 that in the link between the metaphysics of words and the semantics of word, it is the metaphysics of word which has the primacy in a causal sense, that is, the distinctions that are set up in the metaphysics of word such as that between type and token, or between stage and continuant, or between type and continuant, or between abstracta and articulations, or between origination and transformation. All of these spurn the semantic theory or conceptions that complement them. Sorry, I think I went somewhere. Sorry, here. In other words, we begin with metaphysics of words and then progress to the semantics of words. That's the idea. Okay, section 4. This is relatively small now. Okay, it's not such a long. In this section, I give an example rather than draw out arguments in support of T2. T2 was that the metaphysics of word causally linked and prior to the semantics of word. I have lumped both together. So, okay, let me begin with Kaplan's spelling out of this, of his prime motivation for his 1990 metaphysics of words and the stage continuum model. Related to my creationism is the fact that the words I was aiming at all along, in particular, given names like Hesperus, Phosphorus, London, David. Let us remember that Kaplan's PhD guide was Carnap. In fact, he was Carnap's last PhD student. Kaplan was simultaneously steeped in Carnap's formalism and the semantics of Frege and the solution of Frege's puzzle. In his 1990 paper, Kaplan thought he was taking the semantic turn and finding the solution for the semantic puzzles in syntax. However, to get there in section 1, he enters the metaphysics of words, dislodging first his type token distinction and replacing it with the stage continuant distinction, which then becomes a model for Kaplan to put forth his common currency conception of proper name. I think that should have been syntactical, sorry. So like all good semanticists, Kaplan's core concern was naming. However, he found all the existing semantic theories to be inadequate in answering some of the basic puzzles of semantics, or even to provide a convincing theory of meaning of proper names. Hence, by first entering the metaphysics of words, he was able to build a model that would work for all words, and names after all are species of word. So it will work for names as well. Mission accomplished, but only with a somewhat a causal primacy of metaphysics over semantics. More specifically, we first established a metaphysical stage continuant model and then apply it for a complementary semantic theory of words, as well as a complementary syntactic theory of words as composites of sentences. And finally, we can apply this model to a complementary semantic theory of names and proper names, and to a complementary theory of sentences which have names and proper names as constituents. Conclusion. Charles Saunders Peirce is the founder of semiotics, the science of science, and words are, of course, a species of science. Peirce was also a logician, hence he also conceived the science of science from the launching pad of logic. Yet Peirce stated, every symbol is a living thing. And he meant this literally and not figuratively. Now, Yusuf has confirmed this, I pin it on him. Peirce also went on to make the distinction between types and tokens among symbols and thereby among words. Hence, the roots of the metaphysics of words were accomplished in 1907. Since 1907, several streams of research programs in linguistics and philosophy branched out in the direction of syntax, semantics, pragmatics, morphology, lexicography, and even metalinguistics. However, the metaphysics of words remained unexplored. In 1990, in order to find a better solution to some of the semantic puzzles, David Kaplan turned towards formal syntax. But before turning there in his seminal paper, in section 1, he turned to the metaphysics of word in a manner in which metaphysics of word emerged as a viable research program. He did this by rejecting the Peircean type token model and replaced it with the stage continuant model. Kaplan then constructed the common currency conception of names, particularly for proper names, built on the stage continuum model. He could do so because names are, after all, words, and the model of the metaphysics of words could become a special case of the metaphysics of names. Hence, Kaplan was able to tackle the puzzles of meaning not by traditional semantics, but by the metaphysics of names as a species of the metaphysics of words, which in turn would aid in constructing a complementary semantics of words and hence of proper names, as well as a complementary semantics of syntax or sentences in which proper names were constituent. Kaplan's 1990 paper and his 2011 backup reasoning for it alone confirm both of my theses, T1 and T2. To repeat, T1, the metaphysics of words as primacy over semantics of words. T2, the metaphysics of words is causally linked to the semantics of words. Yet, since 1990, Kaplan's breakthrough went virtually ignored until in their seminal paper, Hawthorne and Lepore revived it by first praising it and then rejecting Kaplan's model as well as the common currency conception. Kaplan's response to Hawthorne and Lepore, as well as to his praise for their intricate and extensive work, raised a lot of eyebrows, and now from 2019 to 2021, the metaphysics and ontology of words, including the individuation of words, is a thriving research program, as some are reviving revised versions of the type token distinction. Others are offering revising alternatives to Kaplan's stage continuum model. Somehow, it is fitting that the metaphysics of words, which began with the logic-driven mind of Charles Saunders Peirce, who, to the best of my knowledge, did take logic very seriously, and as we all know, made tremendous contributions in the development of quantifiers as well as in other areas of logic, should emerge as a viable and lively research program with another logician, David Kaplan, and at least his subliminal, logically driven mind. And this is indeed a good stopping point of this paper, which is only the beginning of hopefully a fruitful research project to be expanded in the future. Okay.
That was like 40 minutes.
How much?
39 minutes.
Oh, good. I kept it short. Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, if I read the second section, that would take 40 minutes itself. So.
Okay, questions from the audience? Professor Motilal?
Shashi, hello.
Hello, Dr. Jaitley. How are you?
Fine. Yeah.
Good to see that you are, and it's a very interesting research, proposal that you have launched into. I must say, this, I'm just pleading my ignorance about, or at least incompetence to understand the first part, thesis 1. That the metaphysics of words have a primacy, because I am not understanding what the metaphysics of words may be, but I do not want you to go into that because that's not my primary question.
Right.
Or also on the primacy, what you mean by primacy. But yes, my question may be a bit related to the primacy. I am more, intrigued by the second part, and my question pertains to the second T2. Where you say that, they are causally linked. So if there is a metaphysics of words, let's assume that, whatever it be, and it is causally linked to the semantics of words, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my query is that, is this causal link in terms of intentionality? Because I'm, sort of reminded of Searle when he says that the intentionality of language is, dependent or derived from the intentionality of the mind. I was trying to see if there is some kind of a, correspondence between these two parallels. So I would like you to shed a little bit more light on T2, how this causal link is kind of envisaged by you between the metaphysics of words and the semantics of words. And is it because of this causal relation where the first is the cause, the second is the effect, that you say the cause is primary and therefore T1, when you say primacy of the metaphysics of words over the semantics of words?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have been able to clearly state my concern.
No, you have stated it clearly, but I'm not sure I can answer it. I think the causal may be too strong a word there, I mean, I think some of it in some of those quotations, that I didn't, because see, I collected those quotations as data and I extracted a lot of a part of that. Like I said, this is like a patchwork. But yeah, I definitely don't mean causal in an intentional sense. Okay, so I mean, that's why I read the Shabra quotation. I think words have meaning. It's not people who give words meaning. Okay, I mean, the Shabra is going that far. Yeah, the Shabra say so. There is an autonomy of words. So my primacy is more like when you ask a question, like what is it's more of the Platonic kind of starting point. What is the starting point? What is the meaning of words, or is it what are words? So it seems clear that what are words is a starting point. So the question, what are words, has a primacy over the question, what is the meaning of words, which is the semantic question. So what I'm saying is now, can we carry this further? This is what I need to establish. Answer to the question, what are words, will determine your answers to the question, what is the meaning of words. Will be causally linked, not determined. There will be some link. And I think this is, in my sense, this is why Kaplan, if you look at Kaplan's two papers, I mean, they have the shortest titles you can ever have. Kaplan is an amazing guy. The 1990 paper is called Words. And the 2011 paper, after the Ford and Hawthorne's long drawn out paper, the title of that paper is Words on Words. He is just basically repeating his 1991 position. And so I think, I may be wrong about this. I'm not saying I'm an expert on that paper, but I think that, he thinks that the semantics, there are a lot of problems with the semantical conceptions around. But if we somehow start with the metaphysics, if we answer the question, what is a word first, and then go to semantics, because, so don't treat the word as, okay, words don't matter, we use words as names, the Nilanjan, I could call him, Ajay or anything else, it doesn't really matter. Only the reference is important. So when you have that set of mind, then you're going to get a different kind of semantics than when you have, you may get the same one, right? But if you say, okay, let me first, look at what are words. Okay. I don't know. I
got it. I got your emphasis that it is the question that is important.
It's the question. And I say that T2 is very weak, and then I kind of am begging the question because I'm trying to establish T1 through T2. And T2 is the more difficult to establish, and I need to actually work through those quotations and a little bit more and bring them out and show some evidence of T2.
Right. I'm just asking you, and I don't, and you may not reply. That are you exploring the Indian,
I don't have enough familiarity. Only thing I have familiarity is with the first, few verses of Shabra Bhasha. So that's why I quoted that. I mean, I'm sure there is, lots of treasures, in Nyaya and other Mimamsa texts and Sankhya and so forth, but and grammarian, Bhartahari and all, I mean, so that definitely should be an angle, but maybe somebody else should do that.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, Rajul, go ahead.
Okay, sir. So, sir, my question is also is coming from a place of most probably being just too steeped into the Phrygian semantic point of view. But so you said that in contrast to say what Strawson would say, that it's not people who refer, but it's words intrinsically have the properties or like referential attributes of their own. But even for something like reference, someone like Frege would say that words even get their reference only in the context of a sentence, like so therefore that words in themselves are incomplete, and like some kinds of words are, say, unsaturated, like say predicates, that when only a predicate is a incomplete expression, it doesn't have anything, like until it doesn't have a reference. On the other side, when you look at the sort of non-semantic work that is being done, say by the internalist investigations that are carried out by Chomsky and that school, it seems like they also take the representational quality of words to be primary, that they think that that sentences of the internal language represent, that is the primary quality of language, that language, the internal language, the I language, it represents. So in that also it would seem that some sort of a link between that, that a whole sentence or a language comes before the word, and we only go to the word after seeing what the use of the whole language or the sentence is in which the word occurs, if that question makes sense.
Okay. I think Shashi's and your question both, you may get the wrong impression that I think it's because of the use of the word primacy, right? So this goes back to like my reading of Aristotle, so a lot of times, the word primacy is like a priority, right? So when Aristotle says, for instance, the substance is prior to the other category, he's not saying that the other categories are not important, and that we can also look at substance because we are interested in predication. If we are interested in predication, then we are not so interested in what substance is, right? We are interested in the predicate, right? So I don't take any position on, I do have my personal position on reference and the context principle. I accept the context principle, but see, that is word qua meaning, right? That's not word qua word, right? So this is my whole thing. There is a word qua word, and I am more or less reporting. Okay, I'm not saying. See, lots of research projects come up, and I think if you look at philosophy today, I've been inviting people. There are so many research projects. They all seem like people are into it. They might be fruitless. In the end, like Plato says in Theaetetus, right? They might be Windex, right? But right now, like, there are programs which are flourishing, and this metaphysics of word, that's why they asked for a volume in Synthesa, and so it is a research program. It may be wrong-headed, all that might be true, right? But even if you look at linguists, Nilanjan would be more of a testament to that. That certain linguists are interested in semantics of words, others are interested in how words are used in different languages, spoken languages, and then some are interested in something like the metaphysics of word. What is a word? What is the sound? What is the phoneme? I mean, I don't want to say that phonetics is more important than semantics, but these are different questions and different studies of word. I think the same thing I can say about knowledge, but I don't want to go into it because the Plato had like many different questions about knowledge, and what is knowledge was just one of them. But today, what is knowledge is conflated with how knowledge is acquired. These were like two distinct questions for Plato. It doesn't mean one is prior to the other. But if we know Plato, the what is question is always prior. Okay, in terms of, I would say it's prior as a philosophical activity, right? And philosopher's question. Then even there are many what is questions. There's the what is question of the scientist question, right? So for morphology, the science of language, okay, there will be other more important questions, and maybe semantics will be more important than metaphysics there. I don't know. I mean, this is. So I don't mean by primacy more important in any way. It is more, I go back, it is the question. What is the first question you ask?
Yes, so you have
What is the first question you ask a word? If you say, oh, word only has meaning in the context of a sentence, you've already said that you're talking about word qua meaning. You're not talking about word qua word.
Yes.
Yeah. And Frege never said anything about word, but Frege didn't do everything. But what he did, I think, was great, and a lot of people have forgotten it. That's a different matter.
Okay, Dr. Chopra, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Hello.
Navneet.
Yeah. So, what about? So, as I gather, is that in your account, the direction of causality is from metaphysics to the causality. Is this correct reading?
Yeah, like I say, causality is an unfortunate word, but what I'm saying is that first we have to, the causality is that first we have some theory of what word is, right? Metaphysics of word, ontology of word, whatever you want to call it. And on that you build a semantics. So your semantics should be related. So causality may not be the right word, but it should stem from the metaphysics of word. It's not my view.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the view of some people. I'm just reporting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what about this alternative view? If I say to you that this metaphysics of word, I mean the word qua word, as you are saying, this is probably a wrong view of thinking about the whole situation. And as my proposal will go, that this question, what is a word, is parasitic upon our first-hand exposure and experience with the meaning of words, various kinds of words we come across while we live a life. So we know standard grammar that there are 5 kinds of nouns, proper noun and then abstract noun and so on.
Yeah.
There are many kinds of nouns. So my proposal is, what if we say that the direction of causality is in reverse order, and which means that we do have meaning of words first, and then as a kind of meta-inquiry we do reflect on these kinds of words, and we inquire that what is the meaning of a word. So that's the kind of meta-inquiry or something reflective inquiry. So I would say there is no such thing as metaphysics of word. It is, I mean, we can talk about metaphysics, I may be wrong, but something concrete like an apple or a pole, something tangible. But things here, the question, what is a word, is an abstract inquiry. So there is no such thing as metaphysics. If it is a metaphysics, then it is parasitic upon our meaning of the words. So my account would be that it is in reverse. If there is a causality in whatever sense you take it, that is in reverse direction. Yeah, so this is what I want to say.
Okay, I mean, you can take that position, and you can even find support in the reading of Peirce's, a sign is a living thing. And you can say that, well, sign by its very, not the sound, but the way we understand a sign is that if there is a symbol and the symbolized, right? That's what a sign. So as soon as you hear the word sign, you think of meaning, right?
Yeah.
So you can take that line, but there are people who don't take that line, and then I would ask you, like, okay, what about phonetics? You think that the people who study phonetics first think about the meaning of words? I don't think so. I think at least there are a lot of branches of study of words, within morphology or lexicography, for instance. That seems to be, not posterior to meaning.
No, why not?
The other option, which, see, again, if you look at section 2, you will say, which I'm quite sympathetic to, is to forget about primacy and just say that equiprimacy. Actually, Carnap's quotation is very good in that. He says it just depends on, what you want to do. See, you can say words are parts of sentences, right? Like a Frege is saying. So the sentences become the logical atom. The
meaningful unit, or a unit of meaning.
So the words then again become now posterior to sentences, but that is within words qua meaning, right? Or you can say words are composed of letters. See, you can say letters are prior to words. So there's so it just depends, and this is why in the conclusion I've tried to find, because Kaplan has not stated this. Actually, I'm going to send him this paper, but I wrote to him. He's 89 right now, and I asked him to come and speak to us, and he says, look, I don't have anything new right now. Once I come up with something new, I will come and share it with you.
So maybe it is a difference of how we view at the situation, top-down perception or bottom-up perception, like what you said. So if we are more inclined towards top-down, then we'll say the sentence is the full unit of meaning, and then word is occurring as part of it. It draws its meaning from the meaning of sentence first, so that comes prior to meaning of sentence. And similarly, if you say no, it is coming from the latter's meaning, that is, I think, extreme form of bottom-up approach to words which I don't find myself sympathetic
but
towards.
see, this is all part of semantics, and I'm not taking any stance on any semantic theory. What you're claiming is that semantics may be prior to metaphysics of words, that our metaphysics of words comes from the semantic. It may very well be, but I don't think this is what Kaplan is doing in that. Though his motivation is semantics, right? I mean, he is driven to the metaphysics of word because of the problems with the semantics, right? And his end point is again semantics, because he is a philosopher. He wants to resolve semantic puzzles. He wants to have a theory of naming, and all of this. He is very much into that project. But somehow he thinks that we need to get to what a word is, to get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sarita, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Jaitley, for your presentation, not presentations. Actually, I have a follow-up question on the question that Professor Motilal asked, and the discussion that you two were having. So at one point you said that we cannot have this reference only idea of words, right? Because I think that was also the criticism of Wittgenstein against Austin, where he said that not all words refer to something. For example, prepositions such as at, in, on, they do not refer to things in the world. So saying that words have only reference, all the words have references is would not be a correct view, or would be a very limited view, right? And based on this, you in your paper you give this idea that you express this idea that words have there are three kinds of words: the ontology, or what you call the ontology of words, and then there are grammatical words. So I think all the prepositions would fit under it, I think. And then there is a semantics of words, where I think you can count intentionality, if I'm not wrong. So the intentionality of the speaker would come under the semantics of word, and I think that's two would be equal. I just want some clarification on the ontology of word. Like, what do you mean by ontology of words? I mean, is this where we classify words who have reference out there in the world? So is that what you mean by ontology of words, or are we classifying words based on the properties they have? Because I think you also said a little while ago that it's ontology / metaphysics, right? So how do we understand the ontology? Is it the way we classify words based on the properties they have? For example, some are prepositions, they all have different uses. Some have semantic values, some are prepositions. So like, how do we understand this ontology of words? So I just want a little clarification on that.
Okay, I have never been clear on the distinction between metaphysics and ontology. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the same question.
I prefer metaphysics, but the word ontology of words is used in a lot of papers. And as a pragmatic, though, since I'm writing this paper to be considered for Synthesa, and the editors, one of the editors, Miller, he has published on the ontology of words. So I thought I should mention his paper and the ontology. But I think to me it just goes back. The whole idea is the type token, right? Now I think what Shashi is asking, what you're asking, and what Navneet is asking also in a way is maybe this type token distinction can only be made, right, with meaning in our heads, right? So maybe semantics is prior in that sense, in the sense of like the semantic mode. There is a semantic mode in the mind, right? A module maybe, right, in the brain, right? So which tells us, okay, now somehow we need to make a distinction, between types and tokens, so then we can properly understand what words mean. So that may very well be. That would be one way to come back to semantics in a more structural way. But all I'm saying is the meaning of a particular word. You take the word Taj Mahal or snow. Let's take a common noun, and so that meaning of that word snow, I'm saying is not prior to the word snow. Okay, so and then what is the metaphysics or ontology of the word snow, right? So that is that's where these distinctions are coming in. That's what I try to trace the history. So there is the type snow, and then there is the token snow. Now, do we get to the type through the tokens, or are the tokens the instances of the types, and types as universals are in the mind, or something like that, or grasped by the mind, so the discussion of the metaphysics of words will go, in that direction of the type token distinction, and that will not bring in semantics. So there could be an autonomous, discussion of that without bringing in semantics.
So, sir, if I can just follow up.
Okay.
So I can understand that semantics is not that important to just studying words. That and that.
No, but I'm not saying it's not important.
No, and that the importance of semantics for everything has been overblown in contemporary philosophy anyway. But but what I'm having trouble understanding is that. So if it's not word qua meaning, then it must be word qua inscription or word qua sound, or so therefore phonetically or lexically. What does it mean to say word qua word? There has to be some context in which we first identify what a word is, and that is different. So do we identify words by a unit of sound, or do we identify it by a unit of meaning, or in logic do we identify it by, say, a unit of by a object or a class? So how do we identify what is what counts as a word qua word?
I think you have hit upon what the real question is, right? So, when any project is somebody's disturbance is coming from.
Dr. Chopra, you have to mute your mic.
Okay. So when something is in its kind of initial stages, like I said, this metaphysics of word is basically at its initial stages, right? So all these things. So all we have is the type token distinction. And I think Navneet's question is very good. It could be that we would never come upon the type token distinction if we were not interested in the meaning of words, right? So in that sense, maybe from the back door, semantics does have semantics in the sense not of particular word having particular meaning, but that there is meaning, right? That general motivation behind semantics, that there is meaning. So if that wasn't there, we may never come up with a type token distinction. That's I think that could very well be. But basically so when let's go back to David Kaplan example. So the word David. What is the word David? Not what does it mean? What is the word David? So, and is it when you say David Kaplan and David Hume, is it a type of David and then these are instances of David? Or are they tokens from which we refer to type, or do we go with Kaplan's distinction? Or do we go with Laporte's distinction? I'm even forgetting what those distinctions are. So
it seems the question is again shifted to what is, like, how do we use the word David, and not really what is the word David.
Yeah, Kaplan is sort of going in that direction that, but he's not saying he's saying it's in the lexicon, right? Yeah, it could very well be. Yeah, I have not talked about the use of the word. Nilanjan, you had something?
No, Dr. Veeravali has been waiting for some time to ask the question.
Oh, okay, let him, who's that? Anuradha?
Yes.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was wondering whether the way in which the question is being formulated, it is asking the question in the manner of the chicken and the egg story, which came first and which came next. Because I think it's the relationship. We are really. I would think that we would be worried about how word and meaning come together, and that saying it came together by convention is really not explaining much. Because then we just push the question back to what is convention. It's definitely not a contract where people get together and, So really the metaphysical issue is how do word and meaning come together? Because if we ask the question independently, or these two questions independently, which came first and which came next, or which caused what, like, for instance, word without meaning would be noise. It would not be word any longer. Isn't it? If we didn't associate a sound with a particular meaning already, then that sound would just be noise.
Yeah, that's because we always think of a word qua meaning, or word qua part of a sentence, or word qua part of a lexicon, or that's because we think of it that way.
No, it's because we just don't think of word independently of meaning. It's just because we don't think of word independently of meaning. A word necessarily has meaning.
Yeah, but the word necessarily also has a sound. So when you're studying meaning, right? When you're studying meaning, then you're concerned with word qua meaning. Word also has sound, and word also is the phonetics. So phonetics is not a study of meaning, unless I don't know linguistics, but I don't think phonetics is a study of meaning, and it is a very thriving discipline. So that is also necessary. Where every word, the words have phonetics. So
if I may just push you briefly further, I'm just saying that phonetics and semantics conceived as two separate
disciplines,
disciplines or unrelated seems to be the problem, because there is no such thing as a word without meaning. So we should be interested in how word and meaning are related, and how do they come together.
I don't quite get that. I mean, there is, humans are bipeds. Humans are necessarily bipeds, and humans necessarily have a nose. So do I need to link the bipedness to my nose, to my smell? Humans have a smell, except those words. I don't see why there has to be a link. I mean, there are a lot of things are necessary, right? Humans have a lot of necessary things. We have a heart, we have a liver, we are bipeds. But do I need to link my bipedness to my functioning of the heart? If you take a holistic approach, of course, you have to link everything together. Right? That is the whole.
Just a small question or comment. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, word qua word. I think this makes sense only in a very staunch Platonic sense. And can you explain or inform us about any non-Platonic account in which, this will be entertained? This can be entertained.
I don't know. I don't know what you mean by Platonic account.
I mean Platonic ideal forms, so which are not dependent on your empirical experience.
That is why Kaplan replaced the type token distinction, because it was too Platonic. So he replaced it with his distinction. Laporte, and then in between the sky replaced it, and then Laporte and Hawthorne replaced that. So what is a word? Word qua word. I don't think it's necessarily Platonic. I don't see why it's just a question. What is a word? I mean, the word qua word I'm using, maybe with my too much reading of Aristotle, but not Plato. And Plato never uses qua. I don't think so. But it is being discussed. I'm just reporting. This is what's being discussed. Type token distinction, goes back to Peirce. There was a bit of Platonism in Peirce, but then he wasn't quite Platonic. Then you have the kind of nominalists who say, look, there is no type, there are only tokens, right? So these are old philosophical debates. Yeah, they can't be just shoved under the rug. I mean, the whole of medieval philosophy is full of these debates.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's...
Anyone else has a question? It doesn't seem so. Okay, then that was a pretty interesting session, because most of us just think about words and their meanings through semantics, unless you are very devoted to syntax and lexicography. It's interesting that we have this new interest come up because of Kaplan's paper on words. And Dr. Jerry is quite right to say that Kaplan is very good with very short names for his articles. I mean, you can't get shorter than words.
Papers are also short. You know,
sometimes he writes very long.
Laporte and Hawthorne, wrote like a 40-page paper with 150 references or something, 200 and some references, and then he responded back with like 15 pages, which was 20 pages maybe. It's a little longer than his first paper.
I would say this is a good MPhil topic. A short thesis can be done on it. So,
It's
it was good to have Professor Jaitley with us, and we hope that
you can send me email. I mean, you can demolish it further. Maybe I'll just give this up, start on something else. I'm just exploring, going from one to the other. Let me see what the journal people say first.
Okay, then, it's a good MPhil topic, no doubt about that. Really good philosophers writing in it as well. So, plus our own Nikhil Mahant, who is from our department. So, he's writing some paper on this, and he's already published another, I think, on Frager's puzzle and act theory.
You remember that when we had Nikhil, you had a big debate with Landini.
That's right.
Landini was of this more of the semantic guy, right? Semantics, and so he was. That was a good paper, Nikhil's paper.
So there are no further questions. Then we
Anuradha,
And just to say hello to Professor
hello, how are you?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you were there at the beginning. What I have suggested is like follow the lead of University of Hyderabad, and they start a program where they invite one of the retired professors, not me, because there are people who spend a lot more time there than I have. We have Professor Pandit, Bora, Mukherjee, Prasad, and yourself. You took early retirement, I believe. And Kanchana. So many people are there. I think it would be good to keep the kind of historical continuity of the department, especially in Indian philosophy. I think because I think from my sense, we lost a lot of very experts in Indian philosophy. They're basically retired. Pragati is still there, and Aditya does some Indian philosophy. I don't know what he does, but a lot of the the real stalwarts have retired, and you can even include Arindam in there, because Arindam was very much part of the department. I think Nilanjan, he was your teacher, right? In Indian philosophy, must have been.
Yeah, he taught me classical Indian.
Yeah, so he can be included also in this list. He's very much ex-CU professor.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So,
you can put it here if you want once a month, or you have a separate one. Maybe in this only you can do it once a month, and just you can do that.
No, yes, sir. We'll take into consideration of your suggestion. Definitely, we'll invite to eat. Okay. Well, thank you for.
Okay. Professor Verma, I don't know about. He must be quite old. Is he? Anybody know about Verma? Is he? Nobody knows about him.
Professor Verma must have. I think he passed away.
I think he passed away. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Yeah,
thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you. Thanks you all for coming and putting up with my patchwork, paper. So let's see.
Okay, thanks a lot, and thanks for everyone for attending. Thank you very much. And,
Okay.
let's meet next Friday with another new speaker.